Hello, thanks for joining us today for the Orchestly webinar. Today we're going to take a look at Orchestly, which is our newest platform for workflow management and business process automation. Now, this is the Orchestly's dashboard, which you will land on by default. So once you have set up your processes and workflows, you will actually get a catalog of items like so. And this is a demo account which has a hodgepodge of multiple various scenarios, various sectors, and various teams and their processes. But you can create workflows that relate to your sector, your team, and your organization. For the purposes of this webinar, I'm going to take up recruitment as an example, which is rather easy and neutral for all the sectors. Now, one beauty of Orchestly is that you can customize this catalog. For example, if you only want your lead and manager role users to be able to raise requests for hires, then this recruitment icon or app will not even show up on their catalog. You can restrict access based on team, based on the designation in the company, and based on the users by name. So you can make any combination of these things and make sure that you only provide access to those people who you intend to. The underlying form that you see that you'll be using for raising these requests are also fairly customizable. Every single field can be customized according to your needs, whatever values that you want from the drop down. If you have a particular range for integers and date fields, and if you want to rename or make any of these mandatory or mark any of these fields as personally identifiable information for compliance sake, all of that is possible. Now I'm gonna request for a tech writer for my user education team. I'm going to leave most of this vanilla and empty. You can choose to make any of this mandatory. Now we've raised this request, and this is the jobs details page. Now this is primarily where your users will be looking at all the information, every single field, all the activities, all the attachments. So this will be the end user perspective. I'll loop back at the end of this webinar to how this was set up. So here's the preview of the underlying system that we are using here. So this is the workflow, the flowchart that we've created, and the system has converted that into a workable software module here. Now, according to the design that we have set up, I can only perform the first action if I'm the assignee. So I'm logged in on this particular browser as Helen. If I pick up the job for myself here, I can now see the actionable items. So if you have multiple actions that are available from this stage, all of those will populate here on the blue band that you see on top as clickable icons or buttons. Now this pop-up that we see here, we've set it up to be a simple attachment field. If you want this to reflect any number of fields or a huge form, that is entirely customizable. So you can fairly easily, using drag and drop, set up whatever you want for this pop-up to be reflecting. You can also write a widget wherein a third-party application or other Zoho application could be brought into the UI. So say we write a widget for Zoho CRM and pull up some information from Zoho CRM and show that information here for the person who's taking action on this particular transition. That's all completely possible to do. Now, for the sake of this webinar, let's say this is the resume that we are uploading, okay? And we move things along. I'm still the assignee on this browser, and I no longer have any actionable items. That's because, as per the design, the next step in this process is to be done by the HR team. As you see, the preview is quite helpful in all the stakeholders, be it the requester or any one of the people who are going to take action, to look at what's going on and what are the available options up next. Now on the other browsers, now this one, I'm logged in as a person from the technical side. He's the technical manager who will be hosting the technical interview, but he does not see this particular job on his page. That's because I've customized the user access level. So if you only want people to be notified and to view those jobs, whatever is waiting for their approval, whatever is yet to hit their particular bin will not even show up on their bin. Now, on this particular browser, I'm logged in as a person from the HR team. Now, reloading the page here, I now see this new request. Now, for the purposes of webinar, I have logged in on multiple browsers and moving between browsers and refreshing. But in real time, you'll have the notifications coming in through the notifications pane on the upper right-hand side. You'll have email notifications and you will have mobile app notifications. Now, logging in and going into the job as the HR person, I now have this option to approve or reject this particular resume based on how it looks. Again, I've made this as vanilla as possible with a simple checklist. If you want this to be as complex a process as you want, you can do so at your own, requirement. Whatever you want to configure, it's all possible. You can also automate quite a lot of things here. For example, this particular section where the HR simply inputs the date and time of the interview. This has been captured by the system as a placeholder in a email template that we've set up. The email template's background is an HTML code for the company's call letter, and this field is gotten as a placeholder, and the call letter has in essence been automated, and just based on this trigger of the HR collecting the value of date and time, the call letter is being triggered to the candidate. Now if we move back and check out the screen of the technical manager, now he is now able to see this job as this particular section is awaiting his approval or rejection. Now he can choose to select or reject. And again, you can customize that pop-up to mean whatever you want and to collect whatever information that you want. Now this is in essence how the entire job is going to progress, and you will see all of the actions, all the activities, who has done what emails have been triggered, and all the field values, everything being populated in a single screen, and any comments, attachments, all of that can be viewed, and the job will go on until it reaches one of the end nodes. In our case here, it's either the candidate being selected, inducted, and onboarded into the company, or the candidate rejecting your salary offer, or the candidate being rejected from the interview process. Now to show you how simple it is to set up this process, all you have to do is go to the settings page. You will set up the process in two phases. First is to set up the layout, and the next one is to set up the blueprint itself. Now the layout is nothing but the icon on which you click to raise the request and the underlying form. So when you click on add layout, you can choose what button that you want your app or service to reflect. You can choose whatever is corresponding to your particular service or request and name the layout. You can provide the descriptions, provide the job ID, prefix, and if you want to customize the permissions, choose specific users. The default one is org users, meaning every single person in your organization will be able to raise requests for these. If you choose specific users, you can choose people specifically by name or based on their team that they are part of, or based on the designation that they have in the company, or any combination of these things really. It is customizable to whatever ends. And once you're done with that, you will be taken to the actual layout itself, which is nothing but the underlying form, and this is the form builder where you can just drag and drop the date type, or the field type rather, from the left hand side over to the right hand side, and you can customize this field, provide the name, and if you have a range for it, you can customize these things here, make it mandatory, and so on. So it's a fairly straightforward form builder. Just drag and drop the field type from the left to the right hand side and create the fields that you want. Once you're good with that, you can save that, and you will essentially be guided over to this screen of adding a blueprint. Now, the reason that we have this separated between layout and blueprint and not as a single entity, that's because you might have small variations. Taking the same recruitment as an example, the recruitment process for your sales team is not exactly the same as your marketing team or your development team or your support team. So there is quite a bit of variation in the nature of interview and the number of interviews. What you can essentially do for these scenarios is clone these blueprints that you've created already and make the edits that you need suiting that particular variation of the process, and add criterias which will route this particular job into the blueprint that you actually want. So for the simple example I've given you, all you need is to set up a criteria as team being sales or team being marketing. Now this is a fairly simple example. If you want this to be as complex as you want, you can just add more lines and completely customize this Boolean function and or functions, or manually edit the entire parentheses. It's all up to you. So that the end user and the look and feel of the end user is not affected regardless of the team that they are from. And once the request is being raised based on the requester or based on the team that's requesting for this resource, automatically the system will process this particular job according to the blueprint that you have in mind. Once you're good with that, you'll land on this screen, which is nothing but the blueprint builder itself. It will be completely empty at first. All we've done is simply type in the stage name and click on add. It will drop down here. You'll just click and drag it to the left hand side, and you can connect between the stages like so. Just click and drag between the boxes. Now in this blueprint, all the white boxes that you see, these are stages. The stages do not have any underlying functionality themselves. They just denote where we are currently standing on this process or on this job. And it's just a text used to denote that, and every single one will be marked as open unless it's one of the end nodes. For our case, again, it's inducting and onboarding the person into the company, or the candidate being rejected, or the salary negotiations breaking down. So except for these, where the job needs no further processing, every single stage will be marked as open. It is the dark boxes that you see between these stages that lead from one stage to another. These are called transitions. So these are the validations and actions that take place, which essentially takes the job from one stage to another. Now this is accomplished by these three simple tabs: before, during, and after. Before is for defining the validations, who can do it and under what conditions. So here you can define based on requester, the assignee, requester's manager, assignee's manager, choose specifically by name or based on team or based on the role that they play in the company, or any combination of these things. Or you can even automate these things based on condition or based on time. Now, instead of automation, if you choose to do this using one of the manual options, you additionally get the option to configure criteria. Say, for example, you only want this job to be processed further if the expected salary is between $6,000 and $7,000 and not higher than 7,000. That's all configurable. And this is again a very simple example. If you want this to be very specific, you can add multiple lines and multiple parameters, completely customize this Boolean function according to your needs, and make sure that until such criteria is being met, this button will not show up on the UI and the job cannot be processed until the criteria is being met. So those were the validations in the before section. So here in the during tab is where you'll configure what has to happen or what information is to be collected when you click on the actual button itself. So if you recollect, the first option that we had, the first clickable action that we had was send resume. So where we simply selected the attachment field, which is what I've configured just by selecting it from this drop down. Now, if you had forgotten to create any of these fields in the layout, so this entire pop-up that you see here, this drop-down is populated with fields that we've set up in the layout. If you had forgotten it, you can just click on New here to create the field that you want, select the field type, name the field, provide the customizations that you want, and directly add it to the list. So this is the during section. You can choose whatever fields that you want. We also have the option to add widgets. So for you to select widgets, you first have to publish the widgets. You have to create the widgets. We have a separate documentation for that. So as long as the target app in question supports APIs, you will be able to create widgets. And we have a separate documentation which will provide easy instructions on how to do so and bring third-party or other Zoho apps into the Orchestly UI. So once the transition is completed, what has to happen in the background? This can be defined using the after section. So here we have multiple options. One of the examples I've given you is the call letter example to automate certain things in the background. So this can be achieved by adding an alert, and the email template builder is fairly straightforward. You will have the option to insert your HTML content, a basic editor, and all the fields that you have created for this particular process. All of that is going to be available as placeholders here. So whatever emails that you want, you can configure. Now this is not to be confused with the default notifications. So by default, system will notify the users who want to do the next particular action using the notifications pane inside the app, using the mobile app notifications, and using the email notifications. Now this is for specific format of communications like the call letter or PO issued to your vendors, or dispatch information or delivery information to your clients, and those kind of things. You can also update fields here. So whatever field that you want based on this action being completed, if you want to update a number of fields within the same job, you can do so from this section. We also have the option to configure webhooks. So if you want to push data into Twitter or an SMS notification service, or to Slack, if you want to configure particular parameters to be pushed into particular fields, all of that is possible. As long as the target app in question provides the webhooks to do so, you can configure them and automate certain aspects of it to push and pull data. So the last option is the most powerful, is the custom function section. So each transition or each action can be used to trigger a set of custom code in the background. So this is for slightly advanced users who might want to integrate multiple platforms or multiple apps, or even provide custom functionality which is not available in the native Orchestly application. So it's based on Delusia, our own scripting language, and it's fairly easy to configure. We have a separate documentation which we can share. And if you're familiar with Deluge already, it's all well and good. You can pretty much do whatever you want and configure whatever process that you want, integrating multiple platforms and applications using custom functions. So that's pretty much it. Using just click and drag, you can create whatever functionality that you want using the blueprint. Once you click on publish, any number of edits that you've done, the moment you click on publish, instantly this workflow will be added as a software module or updated as a software module that is ready to go live. So you can start raising requests and process your workflows according to your needs. So apart from this, we have custom reporting available. So whatever type of reports that you want, like the stage duration chart, how much time is being spent on each stage, and even on the same stage, if different people are processing it, how much is the time taken by each user, all of that is completely customizable. So any new report that you want to add, it is also fairly easy and very much it's based on whatever requirement that you have, really. As long as you have built the fields that you want to base this report on, you can create reports for them. So the x-axis and y-axis is basically whatever you want it to be. All the custom fields will be available, and you can configure them in the x-axis, and you can group them based on teams or users or any drop-down fields that you've added or any user drop-down fields. All of that is possible. If you want any min-max sort of report or summation report, all of that is also possible. And again, you can add criteria to get specific data as specific as you want. You can create any type of charts, and you can select the chart options as well, whatever that you like, whatever is relevant to your report. You can choose the charts that best give you the details that you're looking for. So apart from this, we have a very unique report, which is the blueprint usage report. So here we have a stage-wise usage report wherein you will see the number of jobs that are currently in each stage. And this is the transition-wise usage report where you'll see how many times a particular transition has been used. Now, perhaps this is not the best process for you to look into this particular report, but to give you an idea, wherever there are quality checks and changes required, it will form a loop, and wherever the transition number or the count is higher than the rest of the blueprint, you can identify your bottlenecks instantly by looking at the higher number wherever there are loops. So helps you in identifying your bottlenecks and iron out the efficiency without doing any detailed analysis on the situation. And again, you can create whatever types of reports that you want on the default reporting capabilities. Apart from this, there isn't much that you need to know to get the process rolling out. So the access controls, where you can define up to every single field. You can define for each profile whether it has to be a hidden field or read-only or read and write capabilities. You can create your own roles, your own teams, and your own user profiles. It's all up to you. So that's pretty much the overview of Orchestly. Hope it was useful, and you're able to now use the basics of Orchestly. If you need any help, please do write to us to support@orchestly.com. Thank you for your time.